Spotlight is a production of CTNY, the Catholic Television Network of Youngstown. It seeks to spotlight people, places, and events from around the Diocese of Youngstown that promote the new gospel of joy called for by Pope Francis. Your program host is Father James Corda.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Spotlight. I'm Father Jim Corda. Today we're going to talk about Catholic-Lutheran dialogue. And joining me in our discussion is Bishop Abraham Allende from the Northeastern Ohio Synod. And it's such a pleasure, Bishop, to have you on the show today.
It's great to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Before we begin our actual discussion on the topic, it might be good for the folks that are with us to get a little background on yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, depends on how long you have. I'm originally from Puerto Rico. My parents emigrated to the western Pennsylvania area when I was 7 years old, so I grew up and was educated in western Pennsylvania. Came to Ohio originally to teach school. I taught Spanish and French in the Akron school system. Then I was bitten by a bug called broadcasting, and I went into the broadcasting field for about 25 years. But all the time, I was feeling this call to ordained ministry. Mm-hmm. And in about 1998, I began taking courses off campus. Trinity Lutheran Seminary was offering these classes, and I decided just on a lark to start taking them. Mm-hmm. And I enjoyed them so much, so then I began to inquire as to how to become a candidate for ordained ministry, and I did. And in 2003, I was ordained, and I served initially as a mission developer. We developed a parish that reached out to Latino immigrants in the Canton area. From there, I accepted a call to a church in Maple Heights, Ohio, the Lutheran Church of the Covenant. And then last May, surprisingly, I was elected bishop of the Northeastern Ohio Synod, something that I totally wasn't expecting and never even imagined that I would ever become bishop. I just wanted to become to be a parish pastor. Mm-hmm. So now I began this term of office in September of 2014, and I've been bishop all of 7 months now.
Well, I'm sure you'll do wonderful work in your ministry as bishop, as you did as pastor. When you talk to people and young men in your polity and women in your polity about vocations, what's some of the things that you share with them, in particular about your own vocation? Because we believe that God calls people to ministry, but people don't always listen or answer the call. What would you share with them?
I'm a perfect example of that. Normally, people feel an internal affirmation of a call, and then they have to wait for the external affirmation. In many cases, at least in my case, I think the external affirmation came first, and I wrestled with that. And so I tell folks, God calls you, but you really need to explore and search yourself and find out, how can I be of service? Not necessarily that you may not be a pastor, but there are other vocations in ministry that you can serve even on a lay basis.
Mm-hmm. What about that whole sense of responding to God's call? Isn't that fundamental as Christians, that God calls all of us to something in life? But it's just trying to find kind of our niche in life. And God doesn't call us to do outstanding, stupendous things, but just to take the gifts that He's given us and use those for His honor and glory. And it's simple things sometimes that we do.
And I always like to say, it's a cliche, but God doesn't call the equipped, He equips the called. Exactly. So whatever you feel, wherever you feel that you have a passion to serve, follow it, and God will give you the wherewithal to accomplish those tasks.
Do you find in your ministry as bishop in the Lutheran denomination, similar to how we in Catholics, there's a decline in church vocations, and also how do we respond to that decline?
Well, we're going to have to learn to be creative, that's for sure. There has been a decline that's been steady since, well, I can't even begin to pinpoint when it began, but we're finding now that the churches, our churches are becoming older, grayer, smaller, and young people don't feel that connection that they once did. I think a lot of it too is due to the fabric of our society, and that's kind of come apart a little bit, and so I think a lot of that plays into it. But I still have hope for the church. I think the church is going to continue, because it's God's church, it's not our church, and it'll continue in some form, and the body of Christ will continue to live.
Exactly. Let's get into our topic about Catholic Lutheran dialogue. To begin with, what is your experience in dialogue with other Christian communities?
From a Lutheran standpoint?
Correct.
Well, the Lutheran Church has made one of its primary goals or missions to strengthen relationships with all church bodies. We really subscribe to the mandate that we all become one as Jesus commanded us. And so from that standpoint, the Lutheran Church has always been looking to develop relationships with all other denominations. And we now have in the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America full communion partnerships with about five different church bodies: the United Methodists, the Presbyterians, the Episcopalians, the United Church of Christ, and the Moravians. So we continue to do that. We continue to forge those relationships. We don't necessarily agree on all points, but we have enough in common that we can build those relationships from those strengths that we have and that we share, those beliefs that we share, and then work from there.
We've got about 2 minutes left in our first segment. You mentioned something that I think is really crucial in any kind of religious dialogue, and that is to understand that we don't all agree on things, but yet there's an underlying respect that has to be fundamental in any of our dialogue, in any of our communication. And yet there's so many things that unite us as well. Mm-hmm. Obviously Jesus being the number one person, but to look for those commonalities, and how difficult sometimes is it for us to pinpoint what it is that really unites us instead of looking at what divides us?
Well, that's the challenge, because as human beings, I think we're always looking for differences. We're looking to see what separates us, and we have to kind of reframe our thinking to work on the common things, what unites us instead of what separates us. It's a challenge. I mean, I will admit to that, but I think that, again, we live in hope, and we continue to hope that we continue, as long as we remain in relationship with each other and remain in dialogue with each other, we will work to find those things that unite us rather than those things that separate us.
And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment, but we're going to take a quick break. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Light Moments. Here's Father Tom McSweeney.
The popularity of self-help books suggests that many people want to improve themselves. According to psychiatrist Martin Groter, true change is difficult because it requires us to work hard at what is unfamiliar and uncomfortable. Dr. Broder offers the following suggestions. First, examine the behavior you want to change, analyze the obstacles, and devise a specific plan to overcome them. Second, don't make your resolutions too ambitious. Next, decide if you need assistance. Consider a self-help group or turn to your friends for support. And then give yourself regular reviews and learn from them. And finally, congratulate yourself for making the effort to improve. Change may not be easy, but the results are worth all the hard work.
This message from the Christophers.
There is a place where a total stranger will give you their blood. A place where someone you never knew will save your child from drowning. Where a person who doesn't look like you, talk like you, or dress like you will give you shelter after a flood. That place is called America, where we look out for each other. When you help the American Red Cross, you help America.
Welcome back to Spotlight. We're talking to Bishop Allende of the Northeastern Ohio Synod, the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. And Bishop, what I'd like us to do now for the folks that are with us is to give a little background and flavor of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, some of its history, how it was formed, and how you celebrate that today.
Well, the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America began in 1988. It was a merger of 5 different church bodies: the American Lutheran Church, the Lutheran Church in America, and the American Evangelical Lutheran Church, the Association of Evangelical Lutheran Churches, so 3 bodies. And so from there, it's still, it's now 26 years old. We're in our 26th year. And the church is divided up into 65 synods, and a synod is the equivalent of a diocese. We have 65, and 3 in Ohio: Northeastern Ohio, Northwestern Ohio, and Southern Ohio. And then overall, church-wide, we have 1 presiding bishop, and that is Elizabeth Eaton, who was my predecessor in this office. She was elected in 2013. And our national headquarters is in Chicago, and so that's from there. But the power, we like to say, rests in the congregations. We do everything by assembly. The assembly that we have every 3 years, we have a national assembly, which is the legislative body of the ELCA. And even on the synod level, we have an assembly every year, and that is where we make the decisions that govern our synod. And our bishops, of course, are elected. We serve 6-year terms, and some synods have term limits, some don't. That option is left up to the synod itself. So I began serving, as I said, in September, and I will be serving through September of 2020.
Will you be able to be reelected to that position, or will you go to another synod? How does that work in your denomination?
Well, normally you remain in your synod. I would be able to be reelected, but we've had situations. In fact, one of the bishops that was just elected in Wisconsin had actually been serving in Nebraska and did not get reelected. And then he was asked to serve as an interim in the synod in Wisconsin that was in need, had a vacancy. And they liked him so much they elected him to a 6-year term. And we have had some bishops that have gone from one synod to another, but normally you are elected in one synod and you remain for the most part until if you have term limits, you cannot run again, and if you retire, then of course you retire. We had 2 bishops this year who will be retiring. They served 3 terms, so that's a total of 18 years, which is a long time, I think, to be in one place. But it's a very demanding office because obviously the responsibilities are tremendous. It's almost like a parish, but in this case, for example, in the Northeastern Ohio Synod, we have 180 parishes. And that's quite a lot to be watching over, and they all have their issues. Sure. And but one of the things I love, if I can digress for just a moment, is I love being in the parish. I'm still a pastor at heart, and so my joy comes from visiting and doing those Episcopal visits on Sundays where I can preach and preside and be with the people, and that to me has been the thing that has been most satisfying, most joyful in my 7 months.
Well, I would think that your role as bishop is really the pastor.
Yes.
You're the pastor, and so they would look to you, these different congregations and parishes, as the one that would give them the input and the advice and the consultation that they need. But also, I'm sure that you're fed by them as well.
Oh yeah.
In your experience, what is the tenor of lay involvement in your parishes. I know in our Catholic parishes, most of our parishes could not operate without lay involvement because the pastor really can't do everything, even though some of our pastors like to think they can do everything, but they can't. So what about the lay people in the Lutheran community?
Well, we encourage it. We believe in the principle of the priesthood of all believers. Everyone, as we talked earlier, everyone is called to some task, some ministry task. So we encourage lectors, we encourage what we call Eucharistic ministers, people who take the sacraments to the homebound. Anything that you can do in church, of course, serve on synod councils or parish councils, I should say. So we encourage lay involvement, and the pastor who can encourage more people to do those things, of course, finds that if he should leave or if he should retire or accept another call, those folks already have an idea of what it is to run a parish. So the pastor, you need the pastor obviously, because you need a person to bring you God's word and you need someone to administer the sacraments. But other things, I always tell people, you can do almost anything I can do and sometimes even do it better.
We've got about 2 minutes left in our middle segment. What would be some of the particular issues that arise from the different parishes in your polity or in your synod? What would be some that are outstanding or that you might see a trend that are common?
Well, right now, obviously, economics is a big challenge. As we get older and smaller, we lose those generous people that support and sustain the congregations, and so we're finding it much more difficult to provide for full-time pastors financially, and so we have had, as a result, to try to find pastors who will take two-point parish calls and so forth, because one parish cannot afford a full-time pastor, so they may have to share. We also have to share other ministries, and that's the thing that we are learning and we're encouraging is people to begin to do collaborative ministries, because you can't do everything by yourself anymore, again, because of the decline in the parish population. So we're hoping to begin to do more of that collaborative ministry in the future, and also, of course, find pastors who are willing to serve more than one parish.
We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment, but we're going to take a quick break. Please stay with us. We'll be back in a moment.
What have you done for your marriage today?
I gave my wife a hug this morning. I told her I love her. Instead of sitting on the couch, I hope to clean up.
I cooked my husband's favorite breakfast.
I sent my husband a love email.
What have I done for my marriage today? It's a good question.
I gave her a call and say, thinking of her and the kids.
I did her hair this morning. I think it looks pretty good.
We're going to the museums as a family.
What have I done for my marriage today?
I made my wife coffee and breakfast this morning.
It's going to be her birthday next week, so I've been spending time today making arrangements to make that extra special.
Oh, we're spending the day together?
I bought her an orchid.
Hassan was able to let me sleep in by taking care of him in the morning.
I read the newspaper to my wife, and it cracked her up. She's still laughing.
What have you done for your marriage today? Small changes can make a world of difference. Get started at foryourmarriage.org, a message from the Catholic Church.
I spent 34 years as a teacher.
I just loved interacting with the students.
Many sisters, brothers, and religious order priests served for little pay, and now their communities lack retirement funds.
My very first class had 56 first graders.
Gifts to the Retirement Fund for Religious help provide for medications, nursing care, and more. Please give to those who have given a lifetime. Donate at your local parish.
God bless you for your help.
Welcome back to our show. I'm talking with Bishop Abraham Allende of the Northeastern Synod in Ohio, and we're talking mainly about not only Catholic Lutheran dialogue. I keep messing up on that. But we're talking also about some of the collaboration that happens, in particular in your parishes within your synod. Let's talk about some of the collaboration with Lutheran and Catholics, and what's been your experience?
Well, I've actually all the time, I haven't been in ministry that long, but all my involvement has been with in a collaborative manner. The Lutheran Catholic dialogue, Lutheran Catholic covenant, I should say, was begun back in 1999. Bishop Tobin and Bishop Marcus Miller of the Northeastern Ohio Synod, and that was an outgrowth of the fact that the Lutheran World Federation and the Vatican signed the joint declaration on the excuse me, on the doctrine of justification, and so Bishop Tobin and Bishop Miller wanted to localize that more, and they signed the Lutheran Catholic Covenant, which was wonderful. And so every 2 years now we celebrate that. 1 year it would be at a Catholic parish, the next year, the following time at a Lutheran parish, and we have speakers that come in and talk about certain things that we both hold in common, but how we look at them from each other's perspective. And those have been very, very wonderful experiences. I've been involved in several of them. In fact, one of my fondest memories is that my first year, we did a celebration, Thanksgiving for baptism, and I happened to be Bishop Tobin's water bearer as he asperged the congregation. So that was kind of fun. But we have discussed topics such as the Eucharist. We have discussed how Lutherans and Catholics read the Bible. Things that will bring us closer together in our understanding and respect of each other's traditions. And we're looking forward to 2017, which is the 500th anniversary of the Reformation. And you may know that the Lutheran World Federation and the Vatican are planning a joint observance of that event. Because a lot of things have changed in 500 years. You know, we have gotten rid of all those condemnations that we leveled against each other, and we begin now to understand more and more why Luther wanted the reforms that he wanted back in 1517, and so we work to become closer in those understandings. And I become very excited because even on a local level, we've been doing things for several years now, and so I just look forward to that wonderful worldwide celebration that we'll have in 2017.
And I think to celebrate 500 years of someone's life who made significant changes because he felt compelled and believed this so strongly, and I think those are causes for celebration.
Sure.
Let's go back to I think it was your opening statement at the beginning of the show that they may all be one, and that certainly is the mandate of the Lord. What are some of the hopes that you have as you look to the future, not only within your own synod and as a Lutheran bishop, but also in collaboration with other Christian denominations to try to close that gap a little bit, to have that mandate of Jesus realized?
Well, you know, one of the practical things that we do with many other of those other bodies with whom we have full communion partnership is that we share pastors. So that, for example, a Presbyterian pastor can serve a Lutheran parish and vice versa, because it addresses that need, that shortage that we have of ordained clergy, and of course, again, the whole financial aspect of ministry. So we're doing those things, and I'm hoping that in the future, of course, the one question that we receive, and I'm going to just voice this because it is, I think, as clergy, we're somewhat reluctant to say this, but The question that we always get whenever we have these Lutheran Catholic celebrations, the covenant celebrations, and it comes from both Catholics and Lutherans alike, is when will we be able to celebrate the Eucharist together? And if the people are hoping this, I am hoping that somehow, someday, some way, the theologians are going to find that common ground that will enable us to share the Eucharist at one table and not at separate tables.
And who knows that in a few short years, hopefully not another 500 years, that we could have this communion around the table of the Lord to do that. I remember an experience that I had which is always very fresh in my mind, and it goes back to, I believe it was 1986 or 7 at a parish where we had a pulpit exchange during the week of Christian Unity prayer. And I remember going to the local Lutheran church, it was Zion Lutheran Church, and I preached there, and then the local associate pastor preached at the Catholic Church. And first of all, I was amazed at the similarities, almost mirror images of our liturgies.
Sure.
And the welcoming that I received. And I know she had told me when she was in the Catholic Church and her reception there, I was glad that she received such a warm welcome. And I think the people are there. The people understand this. We sometimes take a different approach theologically because of our position, but the people understand the Lord's simple mandate. And so it would be wonderful if we could at some point gather and being able to continue to share pulpits and exchanges and dialogue, and how important it is in order to reach that end goal, we have to dialogue. We have to communicate. We have just 1 minute left, Bishop. What would you like to say in closing to the folks that are with us for your hope for the future?
Well, again, I come back to that oneness and the sharing. But I would say, get to know someone who is of a different denomination than you. If you're a Lutheran, get to know a Roman Catholic. If you're a Roman Catholic, get to know a Lutheran. Learn about each other, and that will help to not only respect the other's viewpoint, but also learn that there is more that unites us than what separates us.
Excellent message. Bishop Abraham Allende, thank you so much for being with us. You graced us with your presence on our show today, and God bless you in your ministry.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for being with us. Have a good day, and God be with you.
Spotlight has been a production of CTNY, the Catholic Television Network of Youngstown. Your program host was Father James Corda.
$33 million Americans have descended into poverty. And as their futures fall, so does our nation's.